Welcome back to Talking Dragon Age, the show where I talk about Dragon Age. This is a follow-up to my videos on classes and combat, where I discuss the things that bother me when trying to play Dragon Age. Those videos had mixed responses. See, a lot of people argued that Dragon Age is a CRPG, and that's why the combat and class system are the way they are. And yes, but the thing is, I don't care. See, developers should never be afraid to mix up an established formula. Innovate. Innovation is how the industry progresses. Not that it's always good, but imagine if Mario never went 3D. There would be no 64, Sunshine, Galaxy, or Odyssey. Imagine if Resident Evil didn't change the fixed camera to over-the-shoulder. Just imagine what that series would have become if they hadn't changed up the formula. Saying Dragon Age is a CRPG doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean it can't ever have reasonable damage or stealth mechanics. And it doesn't mean warriors or mages can't pick locks. I'm passionate about this. I know I'm not going to change anyone's mind. You like what you like, and that's okay. I just want to make sure people can understand my point of view as well. My point is, don't be afraid of innovation, and being in a certain genre should never restrict you. Mixing things up is how we get stealth action games, action comedy space operas, open-world action-adventure RPGs, and so on. The only reason the gameplay in Dragon Age bothers me as much as it does is because, to me, it doesn't match the story. It's a pet peeve of mine in every game, but I notice it more in Dragon Age only because I love it so much. If we're going to say one arrow kills these Venatori guys here, why did these other guys take way more than one? I'm not looking for realism. I'm looking for reason. It bothers me when one person says it's not realistic, and then another person goes, none of the game is realistic. Like that somehow justifies it? I think rather than realistic, people generally mean reasonable. Just because you have some fantastical world or events taking place doesn't mean you get to abandon logic, unless there's a reason for it. You can throw lightning at people because you're a mage. That's reasonable. Your arrow explodes on contact. That's reasonable. It's probably filled with some combustible powder. Jumping this high in the air, doing a backflip, and shooting like 15 arrows at once, which all explode on contact. Unreasonable. I can't think of an explanation that would enable this to take place. Hitting the ground so hard you create a crevice in the earth that erupts flames and then seals itself back up. Unreasonable. Turning your back to an enemy mid-attack. Stupid. And borderline suicidal. Having an increase in strength because you have an enchanted ring of some kind. Okay, I can see that. That's reasonable for this world. Having unlimited arrows. Unreasonable. Receiving an arrow through your skull. No matter how fantastical your world is, that will still prevent you from further living. You see what I'm saying? If the lore tells me people can't just turn invisible at will, why can I do it in the gameplay? And I know the game wants to be like, well, you're not actually invisible, this is just the gameplay interpretation of sneaking around. How? It's not like there are bushes for me to hide in right here. I'm not wearing any camouflage, so why are the enemies overlooking me? Also, enemy rogues are also straight up invisible despite having nowhere to hide. They can also teleport. Also, mages can walk right up to raw Lyrium despite the fact that this should kill them according to the lore. Confirmed both in the Origins Codex and in the World of Thedas Volume 1, page 93. It bothers me a lot more than it should, and I realize that. But my feelings are valid. Okay, so that's enough about that. I want to talk about two solutions I have for the class system. Now, before you hit the dislike button, at least let me get to the end of these explanations. If you're going to hate my opinion, I at least want you to understand what it is. So here. Your character in the next game is always a mage. Not that they are always the class of a mage, but the character always has the ability to cast spells and connect to the fate and whatnot. You, the player, have the choice of whether or not you want to use any spells. You can go the entire game without ever using any mage abilities. If you want to wield a sword, you can. If you want to sneak around, you can. If you want to use a sword and throw fireballs, you can. If you want to use a bow and arrow and cast healing spells, you can. If you want to be a duelist, combining swordsmanship of the old warrior class and the agility of the old rogues, you can, and you never have to cast a spell. You have complete control over your fighting style. That is the point of always being a mage, so that you have access to all three disciplines, and you can mix and match your abilities to be who you want to be. I hate the fact that I can't use a bow just because I'm a warrior. I hate that I can't use a longsword just because I'm a rogue or a mage. This is my solution to that problem in Dragon Age. The main problem with this is that dwarves cannot be mages. So maybe if you choose a dwarf, you're locked off from those abilities. To offset that, I would suggest increasing their resistance to magic and maybe add another benefit. I don't know. It also means you probably can't be a Tal Vashoth, just a regular Vashoth like an Inquisition. Unless you ran away as soon as you started manifesting powers, but that's not exactly ideal. Now my other idea is to make it more like the Mass Effect trilogy, where you have Soldier, Engineer, and Space Mage, and then 3 other classes which are kind of in between. Maybe that would work better. So dwarves are locked off from the 3 classes that use magic, and depending on the origin of your Qunari character, yes, bring back origins, you may or may not have access to those classes. I guess same for humans and elves. It would work kind of like how in Origins where your class would limit your background options, except this is the other way around. Your background limits your class options. You could be a Tevinter Circle Mage, which means you have to have a class that uses magic. Or if you're just a Tevinter Commoner, you have access to all 6. If you're a Tal Vashoth, you can't have magic classes, but if you're just a regular Vashoth, you can be whatever you want. Now as for companion classes, they would also have a discipline of either straight-up warrior, rogue, or mage, or they could have a mix of said disciplines. A mage who prefers using a sword and shield, a duelist rogue like I described before, etc. It's up to the characters what abilities are available, and it's up to you to decide which ones you want them to use. This is probably the better solution. This is the middle ground between how I want to play the game and how everyone else wants to play it. Although I am worried that even that will be too rigid. Like if I want a warrior with just a little healing ability, but the game is like, no, you have to be equally half mage and half warrior, or pick one or the other. Of course they can't actually force you to do that, but I worry they'll try. Game developers like to do things like that for some reason. Now, a bunch of people brought up how you can use a sword or a bow even if you're a mage in Origins. Well, here's the thing about that. With the exception of the Arcane Warrior specialization, which you get from the Memories of an Ancient Elf, there's no explanation for how you learned swordsmanship or archery. What I mean is, I should be able to choose if my character learns such skills, but in the Circle Mage origin, it's implied you never have the opportunity to learn how to fight with anything except magic. So while I appreciate the option, I would describe this as yet another ludonarrative dissonance, which I have only recently learned is the term to describe my biggest pet peeve in gaming, when story and gameplay don't match. So I think that's where I'll wrap this up. Let's all be civil in the comments section. I am aware that my ideas are not for everybody, but I know of many people who couldn't get into Dragon Age Origins because of the gameplay. If you were used to CRPGs, it was a snap to pick up. But for a lot of console gamers who were used to action-adventure games like The Elder Scrolls or, I don't know, Legend of Zelda, Origins took a lot of getting used to. Even I couldn't get past more than a few hours until like 2012 because of the gameplay. Of course, now I have it down, but it was not easy to pick up. I had to push myself through it, and so for a while, I, along with many others, missed out on the amazing story. Also, while I'm talking about gameplay stuff, please, Bioware, include a narrative difficulty in the next game. With better combat, I might not even use it, but my first playthrough on all 3 games on casual were pretty damn difficult. Maybe it's because I sucked, but I know I'm not the only one who struggled. So that's it for now, guys. Thank you all so much for watching. Don't forget to comment and like, and remember, Tala, not us.